So there is no, when it comes to the extreme version of cancel culture, there is no forgiveness. There is no confessional. There is no sacrament of reconciliation, you know? Like, there isn't a form of that, you know? You are done, you are excommunicated, you are John Wick, and you are gone. You are assassinated, you are canceled, terminated, right? Hey yo, what's up you guys? So I'm coming here with another video, and we're doing a reaction video to Anna Akana's Why We Can't Accept Cancel Culture. Let's get into it. But first, of course, if you're new to my channel, what is up? My name is Mitch, Maverick Mitch, hey Mitch, all the Mitches, and pretty much I like talking about what I talk about. So, current events, reviews, and pop culture within the scope of entertainment, culture, and purpose. So, TV and reviews, social political commentary, be sure to check out all those videos as you're finishing this video. Alright, getting into Anna Akana real quick. I mean, I used to follow her like way back when she did like smaller skits and all that stuff, and you know, before she hit the 2 million subs that she is now. So proud of her. But you know, I saw her when she was way back when she did the whole like awesome, like stay awesome Gotham type thing, like very nerd stuff related, and so it was cool. And obviously it's great that she has done so much, and then especially I found it surprising when she was in the post-credit scene of Antman, so that was really cool to see her growth and everything. So I'm really rooting for her to do everything. So when it comes to Anna Akana present day, I haven't really seen a lot of her latest stuff, you know. I still had subscribed to her ever since then, but I just never got around to it. A little bit of me, like, I got like an impression that she was more on the left with like, I would say kind of like a BuzzFeed type of person, and so it wasn't something that I paid attention. But this is actually something that was interesting to me because I saw like a few seconds of it, and I did want to do a reaction video. And again, her talking about cancel culture, because I talk about cancel culture, I thought it was really interesting, and I just want to hear more of her take. And so yeah. So I find it interesting that Anna Akana is doing this video, right? So, and especially with the preface as why we can't accept cancel culture, because like I feel like she's very left-leaning, right? And so cancel culture is something that is accepted on the left. So, and then she is not in this culture war type thing. And again, it's surprising to me to see her talk about this, right? So I'm interested what she got to say and all that good stuff, and we'll just take it from there.
Alright, Dana, so cancel culture is infiltrating everywhere, and it doesn't even...
The way of me making change
in this cancel culture,
as judgmental as possible about
culture in a nutshell.
Cancel culture actually
Freedom of speech.
cancel culture.
Let's talk about cancel culture. I'm going to assume you know that cancel culture is a form of a boycott involving an individual, usually a celebrity, who is deemed to have had problematic behavior or who has said something questionable and controversial. There have been countless videos and numerous takes on why cancel culture itself has become problematic. The way that we judge an entire flawed, growing human being by one moment in time, taken out of that time's social context, thanks to social media and the internet. Ironically enough, cancel culture's origins apparently come from a misogynistic joke. Possibly the first reference to canceling someone comes with the 1991 film New Jack City, in which Wesley Snipes plays a gangster named Nino Brown. In one scene, after his girlfriend breaks down because of all the violence he's causing, he dumps her by saying, "Cancel that, bitch. I'll buy another one." Jump to 2010 when Lil Wayne referenced it.
Okay, so already it's interesting because, okay, so so far I'm agreeing to all of this. There's a portion in which the cancel culture is accountability culture, and I think it fast forward to 2021 and before then too, but it's call out culture and all that stuff, and it evolved into excommunication, right? When you're trying to unperson thing, it's not about forgiving, it's not allowing that person to grow and move past this and learn from this. It has come to the point where we are canceling the person just for their perceived ideologies or being wrong think, right? And so yeah, it is like I look at this cancel culture within the woke ideology as a religion, and so again, this is like the Inquisition coming from the left to the right, or in general, because they would Like the latest example is when we come to the Gina Carano and the woke left going after Gina Carano, then the next thing is that they're going to go after Rosario Dawson. They really have, for perceived transphobia, because she did something about kicking out a trans person that she was renting with, or whatever, I don't know. There was a whole big thing about it, and then they weren't successful, but they got Gina Carano fired, and so people are perceiving that Rosario Dawson next, who plays Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, or Star Wars. So again, so far I'm kind of cool here as far as the history of this, and yeah, we're cool.
It's a film and a line from his song "I'm Single." Yeah, I'm single. Had to cancel that bitch like Nino. This callback to the earlier sexist cancel joke probably helped the phrase percolate for a while. And then, several decades later, gained massive popularity in 2018 and 2019, as evidenced by this Google Trends data. Of course, there are certain cancel people who absolutely deserve to be stripped of their power and made to pay the consequences of their actions. If you're a serial rapist, abuser, convicted pedophile, murderer, or someone who likes fucking cantaloupe, then you deserve to be canceled, and more importantly, probably serve jail time. Because if you actually enjoy cantaloupe, you should not be free to walk the streets, and there's something incredibly wrong with you. What I do want to add to the cancel culture conversation are 3 things. 1, how cancel culture is weaponized against others. 2,
I like that. Okay, so I'll rewind that because I like how she's breaking this down. But I would also I'll try to link it below. I forgot the professor that did it, but it was on Joe Rogan, and like how did the SJWs thing came about, and it came about around 2014, along with the rise of social media apps and calling virtual signaling and call out culture and all this stuff. And so there's this idea in which people wanted to not only put people accountable but have social clout by calling the people out. So a good example is what happened in Aurora, Colorado with Trap T, in which this black lady tried to shut this and expose Trap T for cultural appropriation because trap is a genre of hip hop, and she was saying they're stealing from black culture. Like, I'll link it, be sure to check that out. But again, this idea, what I'm trying to get at is this idea of exposing, call out, this virtual signal, this like I am doing the like social good just by canceling people for the greater good type thing. And so that's where I was getting that.
What I do want to add to the cancel culture conversation are 3 things. 1, how cancel culture is weaponized against others. 2,
I agree.
How we weaponize cancel culture for ourselves. And 3, how we can actually fix this monster that we have created.
Okay, I like these.
Though cancel culture began with good intentions and undeniably has brought some predators to light, we're now witnessing the intentional weaponization of cancel culture against others. Some people use this to their own advantage, hurling accusations in order to get revenge for personal matters. If you're not familiar with the Tati Westbrook and James Charles drama, Westbrook insists her video calling James Charles out, a video that used language to insinuate that he was a sexual predator, was because Westbrook thought this was the only way to get Charles the help he needed, and not because she was upset that he promoted vitamins that weren't hers. You can watch the hours of videos if you want.
Okay, pause. I barely know this story, so I can't talk about it.
I can tell you, it was about the vitamins. This weaponization of cancel culture is not exclusive to individual against individual. Fandoms rally against properties they aren't satisfied with, most notably the Sonic the Hedgehog film. Now, when the trailer came out in April of 2019,
I thought she was gonna go
heavily roasted online and had a nearly 50% dislike.
I thought she was gonna go with Gina Carano, but I think maybe she filmed this after. I don't know when.
And I mean, yeah, he looks horrifying. The reaction of the internet was not wrong here. I mean, he had human freaking teeth, for crying out loud. He's a creepy boy. But the Twitter outrage mob on Sonic was, according to the Hollywood Reporter, so immediate and loud that Paramount pushed the release date and had the VFX team redesign Sonic with an appearance that matched the Sega games. It's hard to argue that this weaponization and power of the internet of fandom was necessarily wrong, because when you compare the 2 designs, one is clearly way less creepy. I think we can all agree that the redesign is cuter and more approachable and feels less like a creature who eats and enjoys cantaloupe. But nonetheless, This is still weaponized.
So, okay, this is good in which we are rallying the fan base, right? But this is your consumer in which it is good because these are who is rightfully so, and the film did well, right? And so I agree with her in the sense that this is a good purpose in which the fandom are coming together. But the thing is, it was the actual consumers who were going for it rather than, let's say, the Gina Carano situation where it's all Disney and all this stuff, where it is not the fans of, the fans of Gina Carano want her on. The people who didn't want her, the people who wanted Gina Carano fired was the woke Twitter mob, whatever, who aren't even the consumers of Star Wars, but Disney perceive them as such because they're the loudest, but they don't know anything about Star Wars. Whatever. I hope she talks about it.
And in this case, things came seemingly all out for the better, given that it set the record for the biggest opening weekend for a video game film in the United States and Canada, hauling an estimated $57 million. I mean, Sonic ultimately ended up grossing over $319 million worldwide, and even with the redesign, the budget was about $95 million, so this entire debacle had a happy ending. But I would argue that it sets a pretty dangerous precedent. I mean, how much of a say should audiences have over creative choices? How many times have we seen movies canceled based on their trailers? Which, by the way, most filmmakers have no control over the way that their movie is marketed. Usually, it's at the discretion of the film distributor. And we all know how misleading trailers can be in order to get us to watch the movie. And though the Sonic incident turned out well...
That's such an excellent point. Also on that note, just reminds me of how Rogue One, I hated this, because in Rogue One, the trailer, Jen Erso looked like a badass character. She looked like she was recruited by the Rebel Alliance because she could infiltrate the Empire. But what we got in the actual movie was a victim of a circumstance. She was just a liaison just to get to her father. And I really hated that. That's my pet peeve.
We've seen outrage mobs in other contexts, particularly academics.
I thought she was going with the Gina Carano.
These mobs have often succeeded in silencing professors, philosophers, and journalists. Take the case of Rebecca Tibel, who in 2017 published an article addressing the question of transracialism, which was relevant at the time because of the news coverage of Rachel Dolezal, a white woman who claimed black identity. In the paper, in defense...
I'm just surprised she's going with the choices she's going. She could very well have chosen Jordan Peterson, who was against forced use of pronouns in Toronto or whatever. And you can look up Jordan Peterson. He's okay to use pronouns on an individual level. It's just that when you are dictated for him to use pronouns, he has an issue. And so it was a big thing when Jordan Peterson got into the rise of Jordan Peterson type thing.
Of transracialism. Tibel examined the arguments used to defend a transgender identity and applied these to the question of transracialism. This is a very common technique among philosophers, testing if reasoning used on one issue would apply equally to a different issue that appeared a close parallel. The negative social media response to Tibel's article, huge. An open letter with 500 signatures, which apparently was mostly signed by non-academics, was sent to the publication demanding that the article be retracted. And it was an unprecedented move. Now, the academic community itself largely supported Tibel, pointing out how several statements in the open letter were false and misleading and did not reflect the actual content of Tibel's paper. The Intelligencer has a great breakdown of Tibel's paper that debunks most of the assertions in the open letter, and I'll link it if you want to read it. Tibel herself went on the record to say that she had written the article from a place of support for those with non-normative identities because she saw transphobic logic lay at the heart of the attacks against Dolezal. Now, I'm not here to comment on who is right or who is wrong, because I'm not an academic, or a transgender person, or a transracial person. My only thought on the entire controversy of this is that if people found fault with it, they should have addressed it critically, with critical thought. The level of outrage and personal attacks that Tibel faced was not warranted for an academic article rooted in philosophy.
I just want to point out, she said critical thought. Which side actually engages in critical thought?
philosophical thought and examination, because this is what philosophy is for, to examine.
And sorry, just to clarify that's not necessarily conservative versus Republican, conservatives versus progressives or liberal, but like, I kind of like this idea of woke and anti-woke, right? And so maybe that's a better idea which side involves with critical thinking.
Why we think the things we think and bring different viewpoints to the discussion for debate. Look, the culture we live in is moving at such a rapid speed. What is socially acceptable or not changes incredibly quickly. The norms around gender and identity are in flux, and philosophy, they've got a lot to examine right now. And if we find fault with one of those assertions, we should make sure to note the context is within academic speculation and address it accordingly, without threatening someone's life or family or employment when they're doing the very thing that they're employed to do. Now, if Tibel's article was like a hate piece that attempted to invalidate trans identity and was laden with obscenities, that's a different story. But it wasn't. And I'm very curious how many people who signed that open letter, one, actually read Tibel's article and not just the provocative headline, and two, had the academic background to even understand why the explorative article was written as a parallel to transracial identity and the conclusions it made. Now, the weaponization of cancel culture against a myriad of others seems like a no-brainer. But the second, and I think more harmful effect, is that we weaponize it for ourselves. We weaponize cancel culture so that we feel better about ourselves.
Okay, so she's talking about color culture, virtue signaling, and like how you're putting yourself on the pedestal by like I was saying, like you are doing a social good. So weaponization,
feeling
good.
Superior and feeling outraged feels fucking great.
But I do get a sense sometimes now among certain young people, and this is accelerated by social media, there is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself. Because man, you see how woke I was? I called you out.
Yeah, calling someone out makes us feel real good. It automatically places us above the person who did wrong. The problem is, we forget that we do wrong shit all the time.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws.
There's a wonderful book, it's called So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson, and it examines the Twitter outrage mob and the real life effects that this digital judge, jury, and executioner have had. Some of my favorite standout quotes are, "The snowflake never needs to feel responsible for the avalanche, and we were creating a world where the smartest way to survive is to be bland." Cancel culture in its most extreme form often forgets that, we judge an entire person based on one moment in time out of context of actually knowing that individual's background, exposure, upbringing, and growth. And if cancel culture's goal is to make people more aware of their harmful behaviors, it's succeeding. But if its ultimate goal is for those harmful behaviors to be adjusted so that people can move forward in their lives and integrate that awareness and get rid of that problematic behavior, then it's fucking failing. I think Sarah Silverman put it the most eloquently.
Okay, so it's good. I like that. Obviously, by using Obama, you can tell that she's left-leaning. But if the left is kind of like waking up and be like, hey, this is getting out of hand, I'll take it. I will take it because that means like there are more rational people. Obviously, she put a lot of thought into this and critical thinking. So I appreciate her for doing this. And obviously she's wanting to get to the conclusion of how do we prevent this, right? And so, or how do we mitigate this and all that stuff. And so, good, right? And I agree that she's talking about the weaponization and all of this stuff because it has been going too far. And like I was saying in the beginning, when it came to accountability versus something about learning and growing and forgiving the person for doing a wrong thing or perceived wrong thing, that was the good thing. But now we're at the point where it's on personhood, right? We want to get rid of people like Gina Carano. We want to get rid of the Covington Catholic kid just by wearing a MAGA hat. You know, we want to get rid of these people that we disagree with. And so authoritative, fascism. So, continue.
On an episode of her podcast.
Christian Picciolini, my friend, who was a neo-Nazi for years, since he was from 14 to, into his 20s, late 20s maybe, was the head of a neo-Nazi, whatever KKK chapter where he lived. He has spent the last 30 years getting people out of hate groups. That's what he does. But he went towards love. He was 14, he was smoking a joint, and an older kid took the joint out of his hand and threw it out and said, "You don't need that stuff, man." And gave him a place where he was accepted and cared for and loved. And that was a hate group, a neo-Nazi group, where he found family and camaraderie and a place to be when both of his parents worked all day. In this cancel culture, and we all know what I'm talking about, whether you think there is one or there isn't one, or where you stand on it, and there's a lot of gray matter there. But without a path to redemption, when you take someone, you found a tweet they wrote 7 years ago, or a thing that they said, and you expose it and you say, this person should be no more, banish them forever. They're gonna find some place where they are accepted. If we don't give these people a path to redemption, then they're gonna go where they are accepted, which is the motherfucking dark side. I think there should be some kind of path. Do we want people to be changed? Or do we want them to stay the same, to freeze in a moment we found on the internet from 12 years ago? And so we can point to ourselves as right and them as wrong. It's righteousness porn.
I don't know about you, but
Exactly. I agree to that 100%, right? Like I said, when it comes to this woke, like, I'm viewing this as woke ideology, well, it's a religion versus Christianity, because that's where that's my frame of work. That's my frame of mind, right? So there is no, when it comes to the extreme version of cancel culture, there is no forgiveness. There is no confessional. There is no sacrament of reconciliation, you know? Like, there isn't a form of that, you know? You are done. You are excommunicated. You are John Wick, and you are gone. You are assassinated. You are canceled, terminated, right? And so, there should, like, this cancel culture should be accountability, right? Instead of just canceling person just for a moment in time, as they were saying.
I'm very tired of this circle jerk of righteousness. I want people who don't like cantaloupe to have a way to love. Not banishment and irredeemability and moral superiority. If we don't have a space for white supremacists to go when they denounce the KKK, how do we ever expect them to leave? If we don't have a path for misogynists to deprogram and be reintegrated into society, how can we expect them to change? If we don't have room for people to make mistakes, learn from them, and then do better, what the hell do we think cancel culture is actually promoting? Real growth? Or just getting really high on someone who's low? And I'm sure we can all agree that if we had to choose the goal of cancel culture, we'd say we want these people to change, to stop perpetuating problematic behavior that hurts others. But right now, we don't give them any acceptance or room or grace to do so. All we do is point the finger and watch them burn and feel really fucking good about ourselves.
At least you're saying it out loud.
Our true goal is to bring awareness to injustices and prevent them in the future. Then we need to humanize cancel culture. And that starts with every single one of us, every single time we're logged on. I'm Anna Akana, and thank you to the patrons who supported today's video. And thank you, of course, to Daddy Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode.
Alright, getting into it real quick. Final thoughts. I think that was really well done. I agreed 100% with everything that she mentioned. The examples that Anna Akana used were not situations and things that I was familiar with, so I couldn't really talk about those. And it was kind of funny because she wouldn't go to the point where Gina Carano, because what is the most recent thing about cancel culture, she didn't want to go there. Funny because, like, obviously she wants to stay in the middle about this, or as safe about this as possible, which is funny, but I guess it's her brand. But again, I agree with this because she's saying it out loud. What we're all saying on the right, you know, that there is this cancel culture that has gone too far and too extreme, that it is not about like accountability and learning and growing. It is about this righteous porn that she mentions. I don't know if I'll use that term, but this righteousness that the woke left has, this moral superiority that they have. And so I would, if Anna Akana is watching this or anyone is watching this that is on the left, I would urge you to look into which side of the aisle, and I'm not saying you have to vote conservative, whatever, but which side of the aisle, anti-woke or woke, is more engaged in this behavior, okay? Because I'm gonna say it's the left. And because they're the ones who are emotionally triggered when it comes to these, like, emotionally triggered when it comes about all these things to be canceled, right? It's always out of framework of being emotionally triggered, right? Whether it's a name, cultural appropriation, whatever it's this and that, like, it is emotionally triggered. Not to be fair, there are points, like she mentioned, there are points where there is things that we need to, there are fine lines where we do need to cancel, like people who are sexual assault and rape and all this good stuff. Yeah, of course, bring that to light, but you have to make sure that that is legitimate. Case in point with Brett Kavanaugh, right? The Me Too movement weaponized the Me Too movement just to cancel him, right? Without really going into it, right? You can't just believe all women. I'm sure that we all want to take account about everyone's stories and all this stuff, but we also have to take account the evidence that is there, right? And so, point being is that cancel culture has gone too far, and we have to dial it down. There's a place for it and everything, but like she was mentioning, there's a point of humanism that we also need to take care of. So I agree to that. So tell me what you think. Comment below. Where is all of this going? How do we stop it? And see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. You can follow me on my Instagram at HeyMitchMitch. You can follow me on my joint Instagram at It's Mandatory Fun, where I do other videos with my friend Jen. I'm also on Parlor, Maverick Mitch, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you.